Shimon Peres, known for the past few decades primarily for his efforts toward peace, made a monumental contribution to Israel's defense throughout his political career. In 1947, at the age of 24, he was already working with David Ben-Gurion, soon to become Israel's first prime minister. Peres handled manpower and acquisition issues for the Haganah, one of the pre-state precursors of the IDF. 5 years after Israel's establishment, he was appointed Director General of the Defense Ministry in 1953, when he was only 30 years old. He was vital in getting France to supply the Jewish state with much-needed arms. 3 years later, Peres played a critical diplomatic role in securing French and British military and political support for Israel's invasion of the Sinai Peninsula, the Suez Crisis of 1956.
Israeli troops, with their vehicles, heavy guns and mortars, continued their withdrawal from the Sinai Desert at a distance roughly 30 miles from the Canal Zone.
After being elected to the parliament in 1959, Peres was appointed Deputy Defense Minister. He was instrumental in obtaining Israel's first nuclear reactor from France in the early 60s. As a result, Israel was reportedly able to build up a significant arsenal of nuclear weapons. In 1974, Peres became Defense Minister.
Now, nobody is talking about nuclear warheads. Weapons are necessary for basically two purposes. A, to deter a war. And if you are unsuccessful in deterrence, to win a war.
At this time, Peres was known as a hawk and gave critical support to the early Jewish settler movement in the West Bank, despite the opposition of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. In 1976, he was one of the instigators of the famous commando raid in Entebbe to rescue Israeli and Jewish hostages captured by terrorists. After becoming prime minister in the mid-1980s, Peres facilitated a gradual withdrawal of Israeli forces from Lebanon following the invasion of that country. He also oversaw the establishment of a security buffer zone in southern Lebanon. In 1995, Peres again became prime minister following the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin. 6 months later, he authorized a major operation in Lebanese territory, codenamed Grapes of Wrath.
In Lebanon, there are forces which are not serving the Lebanese needs. They get orders from elsewhere, like the Hezbollah, and there are not enough forces in Lebanon to secure the independence of Lebanon.
A month later, Peres lost an election to the Likud's Benjamin Netanyahu, following a string of Palestinian terrorist attacks in Israel. Peres would later return to government, but in these later years focused on diplomacy and peacemaking efforts.